Hey guys, it's Ashley, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you all of the books that I would really like to reread at some point, at some time. I just want to get back into them. Sometimes I find it like so hard to reread a book when there are like a million other books that I want to get to during that time, and I always focus on like other books instead. But then there are some times when like I need to focus on other books and all I want to do is reread this one series over again. Can anybody relate to that? So because I am in one of those moods currently, I'm gonna make a video about it. So let's go. So these are gonna be in like no particular order in like which ones I would like to reread the most versus the least. Like I'm just throwing these out here as I pick them up from the floor where I have scattered them all for this video. So the first book that I picked up was The Heroes of Olympus, or The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan. If you've been watching my videos recently, you know that I just recently finished the Kane Chronicles, and also I'm currently in the midst of rereading The Trials of Apollo to prepare for the last book in the series. And it's been quite a long time since I have read this series, and I would really love to get back into it. I don't know if I ever told anybody this, but I actually did reread this series at least once, so I've read the whole thing twice over. I just don't remember if it was before I started my channel or a couple years ago while I was making videos or what happened, but I did reread the series once, but it's been years since I've done it again. So I really want to get back into it, especially because The Heroes of Olympus is my favorite like Rick Riordan series. Don't get me wrong, I love the Percy Jackson series. It's what started everything. It's adorable. I love it every time that I read it, but there's something about The Heroes of Olympus that takes that and it just kind of like jacks it up in every way possible. It turns it into sort of like a YA adventure story. It adds so many more characters, there's multi-perspectives. It's like everything that I love in a fantasy, but in a Rick Riordan book. And so this is just like my all-time favorite Riordan series. So the next one that I'd really love to reread is one that I haven't actually touched in a very long time, though she's one of my absolute favorite authors, and that is This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I feel like this duology is the one that always gets overlooked when it comes to Victoria Schwab's books. Like I've never even read the archived series, and yet I think about that one more so when it comes to Victoria Schwab than I do this one, which is it's not fun. It's sad. Mostly I want to reread this one because I never ended up getting to Our Dark Duet, which is the second book, which I've heard is really good, and I've been meaning to get to it. I've wanted to get to it. I wanted to get to it when it first came out, and I didn't because I had forgotten what happened in this book and then told myself I was gonna reread this book and then never did and never made it to that one. So here we are, just kind of falling to the wayside because I can't get my shit together. This book, as far as I remember, is about Kate and August, and it's about this world where humans and monsters are kind of at war with one another, I believe. If that's not the case, there are definitely humans and monsters in this world, and they are fighting. August is a monster. There's 3 different types of monsters, but he's like a Sunai, and I remember that they play a song and they steal your soul. But then they become like unlikely friends. The whole story, I don't remember exactly what happens. It's something to do with like Kate's dad, I think. I don't know. But she's like a monster hunter maybe. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I read this, and that's why I need to reread it. So next on this list is the only non-fantasy book that I have on this list. Literally all of the other books that I want to read are fantasies. So this book is actually The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I think I last read this one in 2018, I believe, so it's been quite a while, and I recently read her other 2 books this year, so I would really love to reread this one and just remember why I started loving her so much. This was her debut story. It's about this girl named Xiomara who really wants to be a poet but struggles between, you know, what her family wants for her and what she wants for herself. The whole thing is told in poetry and verse, so it's a really beautiful story, and I just remember listening to the audiobook for this and just really falling in love with it and like sobbing at the end because it was so emotionally like draining. But like I can't say better things about this story. I absolutely loved it when I first read it. It's just been a while and I just really want to read it again. I actually talked about wanting to reread this next book in a past video at some point. I don't remember which one it was, but I remember talking about it, and that is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. If you have negative opinions about this series, that's fine. Just skip this part. But I don't, so I want to reread it. There was just like something about this world and like the world building and the way that like it developed over time, and that characters were added and stakes were, you know, raised and all of that kind of thing, that just like really drew me in after the third book. I know a lot of people say that they really only liked the series before like book 3 came out, and then once book 3 came out they stopped liking it, but honestly that was where I started really loving it, because that's where the series kind of like took off and went in like the total opposite direction of where like the rest of the series goes. Plus this was like honestly one of the first like almost epic fantasy series that's like super long and super like, you know, high fantasy and that kind of thing that I really got into. Even though it's YA, it was still just like one of the like high fantasy series that I first got into when I was on BookTube. So I don't know, I just really like to jump back into it. I'm pretty sure most people know what Throne of Glass is about. I don't think I have to say much, but if you would like to know, it's a book about this girl who starts off as an assassin, and she starts off in prison, and then she gets out of prison because she's given the option to compete in the king's competition to become the king's champion or whatever, which basically just means like his right-hand assassin person. So the whole first book is about this competition, but like I said, after the third book, things kind of start like spiraling out of control. You learn things that you didn't know were part of this world at the beginning, and I really liked it, so I want to reread it. I have 3 more books on this list, guys, so hang in there. The next one that I want to talk about is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I actually first read this book for a class in college, so when I first read it, I wasn't really into it. I was just trying to like get through it for the sake of being done with the class and things like that. So I didn't enjoy it, I don't think, in the way that I thought that I would, because I had expectations to not enjoy it. And then of course I got to the end and I was like, oh my god, this was actually phenomenal, and then I regretted not actually paying attention and like enjoying it in the way that I should have from the beginning. So I would definitely love to go back and reread this, and especially make it to the last 2 books, because I never made it to the last 2 books because I never let myself enjoy most of this one, so I would really love to do that. To be honest, another reason why I want to reread this is because I don't remember half of what this is about, to be completely real with you guys. I remember that we follow 3 different perspectives, and one of them is like a mother and the other one someone I don't know, and then the other one is like told in the you perspective and like the second person perspective, which is very different than any other book that I've read. So that really threw me for a loop and for a fun time there. I just remember this book being just really, really great, and great in a way that like you start off and you're like, oh, this is a really cool sci-fi story, and then the more you get into it, the more you realize how much it draws a parallel to the real world and how much it like really makes you understand what's happening now, and it's just like, ugh, it's so good. It speaks to the world in a way that you don't expect until you like fully realize what she's trying to do. It's great. I love it. I want to reread it. Next up, we have a book that I talked about recently in one of my videos that I said I wanted to reread at some point, and that is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, which I want to say, I'm pretty sure in that video I also mentioned about the TV show series that was supposed to be happening, and somebody commented in the comments and said that Maggie Stiefvater confirmed that it is no longer happening, and I am sad. Like, did I have high expectations for it considering it was going to be showing on the Sci-Fi Channel? Not really, but was I still looking forward to it? Absolutely. I say this a lot whenever I bring up this series, but this was the first series that I read because of BookTube. It was the first book talks that I put up and things like that, so it does hold a special place in my heart, and I just remember absolutely loving this, and especially like just crying my eyes out like 8 different times in the last book. So I desperately want to reread these books just to like remember what happened, mostly because they are very like different from other books. Like, there's so many different parts to this story to have to try to explain to somebody. There's like the main character Blue, who is part of a family of psychics, who is told that the first person that she either kisses or falls in love with is going to die, one of the two. Then there's Gansey, who goes to this all-boys academy and has these 4 friends, and he is like desperately trying to find this dead Welsh king called Glendower, and then their paths collide, and then they have to go on this journey to try to find him, but like a bunch of other things happen that make absolutely no sense from what I remember, and it's just like a wild time. It's just a weird-ass book. And then the last book that I have on this list is not An Ember in the Ashes, even though I've said in multiple TBRs already that I want to reread that series. I figured since I've said that so many times I would not include it in this video because why repeat yourself a third time when you know it's not gonna happen anytime soon? Instead, the last book on this list is The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell, which, if you've been with me since 2018, you will remember when I raved about this series for months. Every video I got the chance to talk about this book, I took it. And I'm sorry, because I could definitely have been talking about many other books at the time and I just didn't, so my bad. But this is a great book. One of my favorite books. I absolutely love this. And I remember not really thinking much of it when I first started it. I just remember thinking like, oh, it's gonna be like a fantasy, like it's got an awesome creepy looking cover, like yeah, let's give this a try. And then I read it and I was like, oh my god, what have I been missing? The Last Magician is about this girl named Esta who is a thief, and she is living in this world where people with these magical abilities are oppressed, and I don't remember if they're like killed for them or not, but they are just like hunted down and like not looked at fondly, basically. So she ends up time traveling back to 1902 New York to get this book that will essentially help them in the future to like reverse history in a way and to like, I don't know, break this like barrier that they have over the city of New York that's like keeping all of the magical people in and out of the rest of the world, I guess. So she goes to 1902 New York and she ends up meeting this magician named Hart Darrigan, which is like one of the best names to me. I just like, it's just one of the best like, you know, male lead character like performing magician names, like Hart Darrigan. Like it's just, I love it. Anyway, she meets him, she gets involved in this like sort of gang of sorts and ends up on this heist. It's like a multi-perspective fantasy slash historical fiction. It is great. I remember reading this story and then going right into The Devil's Thief, which is the second book, and just being blown away. Like there were plot twists, there were things that I was not expecting. Like it was one of the best series that I read that year, and I'm dying for the third book, which has now been pushed back to I think March of 2021, and it was supposed to come out this year and I'm sad about it, but I'm hoping that it'll be better because it's had more time to like stew and be edited and that kind of thing. I love this series and I really want to reread it, so maybe it'll happen this fall. I don't know, we'll find out, but I really want to reread this book so bad. And so you guys, those are all of the books that I have on this list that I would love to reread. Obviously, these are not all of them. These are just a select few that I pulled off my shelf because I like really had this like, ooh, yes, I want to reread this now kind of feeling. For some reason, it's really hard for me to hold on to exactly what happened within a book if it's been a little bit since I read that book, just because I think I read so much at the same time that I only remember bits and pieces of everything, which is why it's always good for me to reread stories, because then I remember a lot more of what happens. Sometimes you guys can probably tell how hard it is for me to give summaries to books that I've read even just a couple months ago, and so that's why I like rereading, because it just kind of jogs my memory and it makes it easier for me to tell you guys what is happening in a book. If you guys are big rereaders, let me know down below. I know that some people are, some people aren't, so let me know where you stand along that line, and also what is one book that you would absolutely love to reread if you had the chance, or if you are planning to, let me know down below. But other than that, I think that's going to be it for this video, you guys. So if you want to follow me on any of my socials, all my links and handles are in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you later. Bye!